Okay. So maybe we'll start off today with a breath. We'll just take one. Yeah.
Breathing's good.
Your breathing is good, right? And it's something that we do intrinsically. It's the one thing that keeps us alive the most. I think science has shown that people can survive for 3 days without food or something. I don't know exactly how much it is, and 30 days on just water. And with breath, there are some amazing people who can do crazy dives into the depths of the ocean and come back up. But I think they say that the human is about 3 to 5 minutes without breath, and then that's the end. So it's something we really take for granted, forget about a lot, but it's really a core, it keeps us alive, right? And I think as we explore this week's Parsha a little bit, the way that it connects with things, we'll see how breath ends up being super important. So, Parshat Tavo. The way I've been preparing for the shiurim a lot in the past little while is I go through the art scroll, read through it. If there's any interesting psukim, I'll stop on those. But it's really to help build a framework on the left-hand side. There's the little section notes. It tells you what happens in the parsha. And this week, it seems like there's like a huge chunk of this that is basically a run-on area. There's no paragraph breaks. It's all just one big section. So it's a little tougher. I actually had to look into the words this week, and there's some very interesting things in there. If we look just at the spine, what is the sort of the summary of the parsha? It starts off with Bikurim, the blessing of Bikurim, what you're supposed to say when that happens. It's also, just as a reminder, it's the thing that we say on Pesach, Arami Oved Avi. Then it continues with the same, the thing that you're supposed to say for Vidu Meiser, which is another tithe that we give. What are you supposed to say when you give that Meiser? And then it pivots. And from these two early points of giving and the way that we are supposed to give over what we have to others, we end up with this whole section on the reaffirming of the covenant, this connection between Hashem and us. And it comes down, and this brings down the reaffirming of the covenant is with Har Grizim and Har Eval. Amazing place. I recommend going to check it out if you can. You can see it from a hill in the Shomronim. You overlook Nablus, there's Shechem over there, and then you can see these two hills. Beautiful place to be, just to soak in the history of our people. But what comes up next is this whole passage on blessings and curses. And I think that is really where, if we want to unpack it, especially if we're talking about the story of the time that we're in right now with Tshuva and Chodesh Elul, it's really I think a very important part to look at. So that's where I want to focus. And he brings down a whole bunch of curses. I recommend it. Really, this is something I recommend reading inside, because the way that Moshe and Hashem, when they're writing out this section, the way that they write out the brachos and the klalos is really powerful. And there's also these very interesting dualities that we see. We see these stories where he says that the people who used to be like this will behave like this, and it's going to be so bad that kind people will be unkind, and it says it about both men and women. And there's these very normally when we read Klalos, we don't spend a lot of time on them, but I think it's worth spending a little bit of time on them. I'm going to let you do that on your own, though. I'm going to focus on just one pasuk in here, which is the inflection point between when we get the Klalos is defined in this one case here. So it says in the parsha, it says, Tachat asher lo avadata et Hashem Elokecha besimcha ubetuv levav merov kol. So why do you get the klalos? When is the scenario where you get them? You get them when you don't serve Hashem your God with happiness and a full heart, with abundance, mirov kol. So there's the translations of this, but really it's kind of an interesting pasuk here, because it'd be one thing to say if you didn't serve God, period, asher lo avadata, right? then okay, fine, you didn't do the right thing, but you didn't do it with this madrega of simcha and rov kol and betuv lev and all these things. It feels kind of challenging to not, like, to say that we should receive curses for not reaching that super high level. So I think there's some different explanations for what this, for how to understand this this parsha. On a sort of intellectual level, the Chassam Sofer brings down an explanation, and he says that the way to understand that this pasuk is to say tachat asher lo avarata, and the lo avarata is with the simcha. So you have all this abundance and this joy to not serve God, not that you're serving God. So the way of understanding is lo avarata, and the way that you're lo oved is besimcha. You're having enjoyment when you're not serving. So okay, that's one explanation. Another way that I think we can understand this, and this touches on some of the Kabbalistic explanations of Likutei Moharan and Rav Nachman, is to understand a little bit more about what it means to be besimcha. So besimcha is a way that they describe it is in a state of abundance. You are in connection with everything around you. You are absorbing and emanating joy at the same time. And we think about these words. It says, merov kol, you have this abundance around you, and really to be in joy, in simcha, in this time is also to be in chesed. So I spent a lot of time over the past number of years sort of exploring Buddhist meditation and stuff like that. And they have a concept that they talk about called loving kindness meditation. It's worth exploring also on your own. It's a meditation where you're supposed to feel at one. There's often a lot of breath work that's involved in it. And this is where, in the Sefer of Nachman, they draw this straight parallel between chesed and loving kindness. They say it also in Michtav Eliyahu. There's different ways of explaining this. And it just so happened to be that yesterday, when I was preparing for the musing, I went out to do a little hisbodedus in the woods by my house, the ravine in Cedar Vale. Also recommend it for everybody. And as I was on my walk, I ran into a Canadian, Korean, Buddhist, Rastafarian woman named Tai. She's a real light unto the nations, Chochmas HaGoyim that she passes on. And as I was sort of yapping with her to prepare for the shir, she told me, she gave me this eitzah. She said, we're in a time now of such abundance. So think about this pasuk, merov kol. We're in a time of such abundance. We have food options you can't imagine. We can order everything at the click of a button. We even have such an abundance of bad news. We have abundance. Like every time you want something, it appears for you. You need self-confirmation or self-fulfillment in some way. You can call on it in a second. And when you think about it, we often get drawn into these states of acquire. I need to get stuff. I'm shopping online. I need to get this stuff for this. I need to have all the things. And when you take a moment as you're about to do that, you just take a pause and take a breath and ask yourself if do I really need this? Do I need this thing? Do I need it? Or is breath going to be the thing that I can return to make this decision? And I think that when you think about this also from a psychological concept, there's a hierarchy of needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We think about this. Self-actualization is the top, and then there's kind of influence and all these other layers that occur. But if you go down back to the root of all of these things, that's again we find breath. So before you go and try and solve all the other problems, you have to serve. The breath as the beginning. I think if you think also about what we learned a lot last week from Brother Joey, we learned about the avodah. Right, the avodah is the important thing, and Rav Nachman brings down that joy is actually something that is required to fulfill mitzvahs. So back to the avodah says Hashem b'simcha, he says it's required to fulfill simchas, and he brings down that one of the ways that you can tap into this, that the challenge is that joy comes from the heart. So what does the heart do? It circulates blood around the body. And when the heart is in a bad place, it's in depression or whatever it is, one of the things that we have to do is to find a way to bring some cleansing to it in some way. And he brings down, again in here, that the number one way to do that is through breath. It's the way that you cleanse the blood and you bring more oxygen into it, again, to bring a cleansing to what is the depression of the heart, is through breath. So we see that really, I think if you look at Tachas Hashalo Avarta as Hashem Elokecha B'Simcha, it's challenging to do this avodah b'simcha. It's challenging to really connect with these things. We're all distracted by so many things in our daily lives, and I think even now, if we think about it, and we talked about this a little bit last week, there's sort of a sense of fear that we could have about tshuva and this zman. So the avodah, really, if you think about it, is to, whenever we feel that pull of the discomfort and the depressions, and it's not simple to do. He says here that it's one of the hardest activities that a person can do, is to pull themselves out of a depression. But the guidance that we have is to take a breath. And when you think also, I was doing a little exploration. There's a guy named Dan Harris. He's also a Yid. He doesn't talk in Torah quite so often. Often talks about, he has a podcast called 10% Happier. And he has this piece that he talks about in joy and brings down a number of different ways. As we go into the holiday season, we can think about some of these ways whenever, the stress gets to us or whatever. He says some of the ways are through breath. We talked about this. He says that one of the big things that you can do is through connection with others. So go out and spend time with other people, be social. Sometimes they're the people that get under our skin, but azoi. So you want to go out and connect with other people. And the last one is to move. So there's this act of going out. Being in movement is something that can actually help reset you. And I think if we tie all these things together, one of the amazing things that we have is Epis Kumzitz, a little nigun or something like that. They say that when people come together in these kind of situations, the breath actually sinks. So the people come together when they're singing and when they're doing this kind of nigunim together, they bring breath together with the social aspect. So I think really, if you think for an eitzah, for joy and simcha, and the way we can do this avodas Hashem properly as we go into the holidays, is really to when we come together to really connect in that way, and connect with your breath and connect the breath of the people around you. So thank you for musing with me today.
Sure.